Welcome back to So You Really Want to Learn Latin, and today we're going to look at the crucial distinction between subjects and objects. The subject of a verb in a sentence is the person or the thing who is doing the verb. The object, or more correctly, the direct object, is the person or the thing to whom the verb is being done. So, if you have an exciting little story such as "The farmer is watching the girl," the farmer would be the subject because he is doing the watching, "is watching" would be the verb, and the girl would be the object because she is the person or thing getting watched. Okay? And if you wrote that little English sentence out, you might want to put an S for subject over the top of the farmer, a V for verb over the top of "is watching," and an O for object over the top of the girl. And you could write lots of little sentences like that. The girl watches the farmer. Farmer loves the woman. Okay? Lots of little sentences like that where the subject is the person doing the verb. Now, in English, we generally know who the subject of the verb is because the subject is always written or said immediately before the verb, and if there is an object in the sentence, the object comes immediately after that. So word order tells us who is doing the verb. The sailor watches the girl. It's obvious that the sailor is the one doing the watching and the girl is the one getting watched. So word order tells us who the subject is and who the object is. Okay, in Latin it's different. In Latin, it isn't the word order that tells us who the subject of the sentence is and who the object of the sentence is. It's the ending on the end of the noun. Okay, now we've already looked at mensa, and we know that mensa has different case endings for each of the 6 cases. 6 in the singular, 6 in the plural. And we've learnt that the nominative case is used for the subject and the accusative case is used for the object. Okay, so what we're going to be looking for when we look at a Latin sentence is not the order in which the words come, but the endings on the end of the nouns. So, if we had our sentence, "The farmer is watching the girl," the farmer is the subject, so in Latin he has to have a nominative singular ending. So that would be agricola, with the "a" ending being a nominative singular ending. Now if the farmer is watching the girl needs to be shown to be the object, and so she needs to have an accusative ending. And because there's only one of her, it's an accusative singular ending, which is A-M. So, pu'elam would be the girl when she is the object. So we now have agricola, the subject, pu'elam, the object, and in Latin the verb typically comes at the end. And because the subject of our sentence was the farmer, and if we wanted to use a pronoun for the farmer it would have been he, the ending we put on the verb must be the correct ending for he or she or it. In other words, the third person singular ending, which for verbs like amo in the present tense is the letter T. Now we were watching, not loving, so that would be spectat. Okay, so our sentence, "The farmer is watching the girl," would be agricola, the nominative case, pu'elam, the accusative case, spectat, the third person singular ending for the verb. Okay, now if we were to move into the plural, and let's say we have a plural subject, so let's use some sailors this time. The Latin for a sailor is nauta, but if we wanted the sailors to, let's say, love the girl, okay, the sailors love the girl. Our sailors are the subject. They need now to be in the nominative case because they're the subject, but be plural because they are plural. So that would be nautai. Okay, I've gone through the noun nauta. Nauta, nauta, nautam. Nautai, nautai, nautar. That was the singular. And then in the plural, nautai, nautai, nautas, nautarum, nautis, nautis. So in the plural, the nominative case ending was the first one we get to, so nautai. Okay, so there's our subject, nautai, the sailors. They love, we'll deal with that later, they love the girl. Now there's only one girl, so she's singular. She therefore needs an accusative singular ending, which for puella, you go puella, puella, puellam, puellai, puellai, puella, but we only need the accusative singular ending, so puella, puella, puellam. Okay, so we've got nautai, puellam, and now we need to do love. Now who loves? The sailors love. The sailors we would call they, third person plural, so that's amant. Okay, so there's a lot going on when we write these simple little sentences with a subject, a verb and an object. The subject must have a nominative case ending. The object must have an accusative case ending, and the verb, what we say about the verb is the verb must agree with the subject. So if the subject is a person or a thing and a singular person or thing, the verb must be a third person singular ending, because the subject is a he or a she or an it, and therefore the verb must have the he or she or it ending. If the subject is plural, and let's say it's something like the farmers, the subject is a third person plural, because you would talk about the farmers as being they, and therefore the verb must have a third person plural ending. So that applies where the subject is a singular noun or a plural noun. Okay, if it's singular, our verb must be third person singular, and if it's plural, it must be third person plural. So for now, I'm just going to ask you to really nail that basic concept of subject, verb, object using nominative case for the subject, accusative case for the object, and getting the verb in the correct form. Third person singular if the subject was a singular noun, and third person plural if the subject was a plural noun. And just beware, by plural noun, it could of course be two singular nouns joined together by and. So just for example, if we wanted to say the sailor and the farmer are watching the girl, the sailor and the farmer are the subject, both of them are the subject of the verb are watching. They are watching the girl, both the sailor and the farmer. So we would need the nominative case endings for both the sailor and the farmer. So nauta et agricola. They're watching the girl, so the girl is the object, puellam. And then the verb, because the subject was plural, there were two people doing the watching, we need the ending for they. So that would be spectant. Okay? Now, obviously you can have a plural subject and a singular object. You can have a singular subject and a plural object. You can have singular of both and plural of both. What that means is you're really looking at the endings of the nouns, the Latin nouns, to work out which one is the subject, which one is the object. Is the subject singular or is it plural? Is the object singular or is it plural? Okay, so just to show you a sentence working where the object is plural, you might have the sailor is watching the girls. Okay, so that would be nauta is the subject. The verb when we get there will be spectat because he is watching. But the girls would be puellas. So nauta puellas spectat. The sailor is watching the girls. And we're now going to look at what happens when dealing with subjects and objects when the subject is in the verb. Okay. Now, we've looked at how a sentence such as the farmer watches the girl has a subject, the farmer, and that goes in the nominative case. It has an object, the girl, and that would go in the accusative case, and it has a verb, watches, which will have the third person singular ending because the subject was a singular noun. But of course, the subject of the sentence might not be a noun at all. It might be a pronoun. If the pronoun is I, then I am the subject, and we might have a sentence such as, I watch the girl. Now, the Latin for I watch is spector, and the Latin for a girl is puella. But if the girl is the object, she must go into the accusative case and become puellam. So the Latin for I watch the girl would be puellam spector. Okay, so remember the verb always goes at the end. So your first Latin word would be a noun in the accusative case, puellam, and then the verb spector would mean I watch. So puellam spector is I watch the girl. If it was plural and I'm still doing the watching and I was watching more than one girl, it would be puellas spector. Okay? Let's say we are doing something. So perhaps we are watching the farmer. Now the Latin for watch is spector, and we watch, spector, spectar, spectat, spectamus. Okay, so we watch will be spectamus, and we are watching the farmer would be agricolum spectamus. Okay, now it's a bit confusing that in Latin the verb always goes at the end of the sentence. When I say always, it doesn't always go at the end, but the general rule is that unless there's a reason why it shouldn't, the verb goes at the end. So we are always making sure that when we write our Latin, we are thinking of the word for the noun, so let's say agricola or nauta or whatever the noun is, and we're deciding, is that noun the subject or is it the object? If it's the subject, it must have a nominative case ending. If it's the object, it must have an accusative case ending. And then if it's singular, that ending must be singular. And if it's plural, it must be plural. Okay? This all comes in this joyous book, so you really want to learn Latin. Have a look in there, or in the description box below, I will link you to some practice exercises on this. We're going to start just by practicing the really simple stuff. I see the farmer sees the woman, that kind of thing, where you put it into Latin. Then I'm going to get you to translate out of Latin, but there will always be a pretty simple pattern of subject, verb, object, subject, verb, object. And then later we'll get on to trickier things where I start deliberately playing around with the word order just to see if I can catch you out. Okay, see you next time for more of this sort of thing.